Namaste, Dandava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 19, The Killing of the Demon Hiraṇyākṣa. Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha Avadharya Virinchasya Nirvyali Kamratam Vacha Rahasya Prema Garbena Ad Apangena Sograhit. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the Creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. Purport. The word nirvyalika is very significant. The prayers of the demigods or devotees of the Lord are free from all sinful purposes, but the prayers of demons are always filled with sinful purposes. The demon Hiraṇyākṣa became powerful by deriving a boon from Brahma, and after attaining that boon, he created a disturbance because of his sinful intentions. The prayers of Brahma and other demigods are not to be compared to the prayers of the demons. Their purpose is to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord smiled and accepted the prayer to kill the demon. Bhakta Lawrence Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Demons who are never interested in praising the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they have no information of him go to the demigods, and in Bhagavad Gita this is condemned. Persons who go to the demigods and pray for advancement in sinful activities are considered to be bereft of all intelligence. Demons have lost all intelligence because they do not know what is actually their self-interest. Even if they have information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they decline to approach him. It is not possible for them to get their desired boons from the Supreme Lord because their purposes are always sinful. It is said that the dacoits in Bengal used to worship the goddess Kali for fulfillment of their sinful desires to plunder others' property. But they never went to a Vishnu temple because they might have been unsuccessful in praying to Vishnu. Therefore, the prayers of the demigods or the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are always untinged by sinful purposes. Text 2. Tatasapatnam muktas charantam ukutabhayam jaghanotpatya gadaya anavusrum akshajaha. The Lord, who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma, sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiraṇyākṣa demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him. 3. Sahatatena gadaya vihata bhagavat karat vighurnita patadreje ad adbhutam ivabhavat. Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down, whirling. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully. 4. Satada labda tirtopi nabhabdade nirhayudam manayan samridhe dharmam vishvakshinam prakopayan. Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. 5. Vidhayam apavidhayam ahakare vinirgate Manayamasata dharmam sunhabam chasmarad vibhu. As the Lord's mace fell to the ground and a cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis, the personality of Godhead acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sudarshan discus. Six. Tam vyagra chakram diti putradhemena svaparshada mukina vishajamanam chitravacho tadvidam kicharanam tatrasmasan svasti te mum jahiti. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiraṇyākṣa, a vile son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, "May victory attend you. Pray dispatch him. Play no more with him." 7. Satam nisamyata ratangam agrato vyavastitam padma palasalochanam vilokya chamarsa pariplutendriyo rusasvadhanta chadam adasachtrasan. When the demons saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals, standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshan discus, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and he bit his lip in great resentment. 8. Karala damstras chakshur bhayam sanchakshano dahaniva abhiplutyasvagadaya atosityan anadarim. The demon who had fearful tusks stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, "You are slain." 9. Padasavyena tamsado bhagavan yagya sukara vilaya mishata satro praharadvata ramhasam. O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest. 10. Ahachayudam adhatasva gatasva tvam jigishasi ityukta tadabuyas Hadayan Vyana Dadbrasham. The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenged in these words, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more loudly roared. 11. Kamsa apatatim viksha bhagavan samavastita jagraha lilaya praptam garutman eva panagim. When the Lord saw the mace flying toward him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. 12. Swaporushe pratihate hatamano mahasura naichad gadam diyamanam harina vigata prabha. His valor, thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of Godhead. 13. Jagraha tri shikam shulam jvalajdralana lolupam yagyaya drita rupaya vipraya bicharanyata. He now took a trident which was as rapacious as flaming fire and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, even as one would use penance for a malevolent purpose against the holy Brahmana. 14. Arojasa Daitya Mahabhatarharpitam Shakasad Antaka Udirna Dititi Chakrena Chichedha Nishatanimina Ariryata Tarksha Patatram Ujihitam. Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his discus Sudarshan, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. Purport. The context of the reference given herein regarding Garuda and Indra is this. Once upon a time, Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, snatched away a nectar pot from the hands of the demigods in heaven in order to liberate his mother, Vedanta, from the clutches of his stepmother, Kadru, the mother of the serpents. On learning of this, Indra, the king of heaven, hurled his thunderbolt against Garuda. With a view to respect the infallibility of Indra's weapon, Garuda, though otherwise invincible, being the Lord's own mount, dropped one of his wings, which was shattered to pieces by the thunderbolt. The inhabitants of the higher planets are so sensible that even in the process of fighting, they observe the preliminary rules and regulations of gentleness. In this case, Garuda wanted to show respect for Indra, since he knew that Indra's weapon must destroy something. He offered his wing. Text 15. Vruknesva sule bahu dharvina hare pratyetya vishtirnam uro vibhutimat pavradha rosasa katora mustina nadan prahatyantara diyatasura. The demon was enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the discus of the personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced toward the Lord and, roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Then he went out of sight. Purport. Srivatsa is a curl of white hair on the chest of the Lord, which is a special sign of his being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vaikuntha Loka or in Goloka Vrindavan, the inhabitants are exactly the same form as the personality of Godhead, but by this Srivatsa mark on the chest of the Lord, he is distinguished from all others. 16. Tenetam ahatakshatar Bhagavan Adi Shukara Nakam Pata Manakvapi Srajahata Ivadvipa. Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord who had appeared as the first boar did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers. Purport. As previously explained, the demon was originally a servitor of the Lord in Vaikuntha, but somehow or other he fell as a demon. His fight with the Supreme Lord was meant for his liberation. The Lord enjoyed this striking on his transcendental body, just like a fully grown-up father fighting with his child. Sometimes the father takes pleasure in having a mock fight with his small child, and similarly, the Lord felt Hiraṇyākṣa's striking on his body to be like flowers offered for worship. In other words, the Lord desired to fight in order to enjoy his transcendental bliss, therefore he enjoyed the attack. 17. Atorudashrijanmayam yogamayeshvare haro yam vilokya prajastrasta meniresyo pasamyamam. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yoga Maya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. Purport. The fighting enjoyment of the Supreme Lord with his devotee, who had been converted into a demon, appeared severe enough to bring about the dissolution of the universe. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the wavering of his little finger appears to be a great and very dangerous movement in the eyes of the inhabitants of the universe. 18. Pravavurvaya vaschandas tamapam savam aryayan digbyo nipetur gravana chepanai prahita iva. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness, occasioned by dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volleys from every corner, as if thrown by machine guns. Text 19. Jaornasta Bhagan Abruragahi Savidyutstana Yutnubihi Varshadbihi Puya Kesarga Vinmutrastini Jasakrit. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. Thus ends our reading for today, and we'll continue from text 20 on Monday. Were there any comments or questions from the devotees?
I recently got myself the first three parts of part one of the Srimad Bhagavatam, so I'm hoping to catch up by reading in my spare time Bhagavatam to catch up where you are presently on volume 3. So I'm enjoying reading that very much.
Bye, Prabhu, very nice. I thought it was interesting in the previous verse, in verse 18, this word Chepanai, Chepanai, or Chepanahi. It's translated as by machine guns. So I thought that's super interesting. This is from Bhagavatam, it's 5,000 years old. There's a word for machine guns. So anyhow.
And the airplanes.
But the airplanes they're talking about aren't mechanical airplanes. They're like flowers. There's giant flying flowers. So but these machine guns, I never heard of that. Anyhow, everything is possible by Krishna's grace.
Indeed.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Yes.
Sharupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Our glories to the devotees, our glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Navarit Dham Ki Jai, Nrshingapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Shyam Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai. Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari
Hari Bol.
Jai Srimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Jai Bhakti Lawrence Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Bhakti Ras Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Bol. श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय.
Jai Gurudev.
धन्यवाद.